Hi, this is Sarah Connor. I'm working with Carrie Reed. This is the continuation to our discussion on intellectual disabilities. Family caregivers of adults with IDD. Individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities in the U.S. predominantly live with their family caregivers. Individuals with IDD are experiencing longer life expectancies, and families continue to be primary providers of care. In 2011, 71% of individuals with IDD lived with a family caregiver. The reliance on families to provide a majority of caregiving is imperative that support services for families be accessible and effective. Currently, the Home and Community-Based Services Waiver Program, funded through Medicaid, is the primary funding source for long-term services and support for individuals with IDD and their families. The health and well-being of family caregivers is crucial to supporting the existing system of care in the U.S. and will only become more crucial with the aging of the population. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, as part of the Affordable Care Act, has released $25 million to expand the Aging and Disability Resource Center into every state over the next 3 years to provide more home and community-based supports to older adults and people with disabilities. ADRCs are designed to be a one-stop department for families to receive counseling on assessing supports and services. In 2012, the Administration for Community Living was created, which merged the Administration on Aging, the Office of Disabilities, and the Administration on Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities into one agency to improve policy and program support. 24 studies met all the criteria for review. Several articles reported multiple outcomes across the physical health, mental health, and economic domains. Mental health outcomes. Family caregivers' mental health outcomes are related to the diagnosis of the adult with IDD, the varying level of needs of the individual with IDD, and the length of the caregiving role. The greater the severity of the disability and the more complex the need are related to the higher caregiver stress and burden. According to Williamson and Perkins, demographic differences among caregivers were found to influence caregiver mental health outcomes. Comparing Latina and Anglo mothers of adults with IDD, Latina mothers had higher self-reported depressive symptoms and lower optimism than Anglo mothers. Paternal role also had an influence on caregivers' mental health. Fathers are more pessimistic about the future and less likely to use coping strategies to reduce stress than mothers. According to Williamson and Perkins, co-residence is also found to be associated with family caregiver mental health outcomes. Parents of adults with IDD that co-reside report lower marital stability, reduced leisure time, higher limitations in parental activities of daily living, and lower health-related quality of life. The mental health of the family caregiver and the expansion of their caregiving role are related to their desire for out-of-home placement. Greater caregiver stress and burden can result in an increased desire for out-of-home placement. Physical health outcomes. According to Williamson and Perkins, female caregivers of adults with IDD living in the home compared to females in the general U.S. population perceived their health to be better. Among these female caregivers of adults with IDD, it was found that they had a higher prevalence of arthritis, high blood pressure, obesity, limitations in activities. The health status and diagnosis of the care recipient may or may not influence caregiving physical health. It was found that the worse the physical health of the adult with IDD, the worse the health of the caregiver. Economic outcomes. According to Williamson and Perkins, caregivers report financial impacts including an overall lower socioeconomic status among older age co-residing parents. Receiving support services is an important factor in reducing family out-of-pocket disability-related expenses. Family caregivers of adults with IDD with lower income in later life report lower overall mental health. Family caregiver implications. The U.S. disability system, with its emphasis for prioritizing home and community-based care over institutional care, automatically result in greater reliance upon family caregivers. Family caregivers who experience physical and mental health setbacks or take on multiple caregiving roles can be more apt to seek out-of-home placements for their sons or daughters with IDD. Better understanding the needs of family caregivers can be accomplished through caregiver assessments that consider the diverse challenges, supports, and resources each caregiver may assess. Understanding and responding to the needs of family caregivers in a public health issue, and therefore it has been strongly advocated that additional funding should be supported caregiving resources. The complexity and variability of the U.S. disability services system make implications of evaluation measures challenging. However, the U.S. aging population of adults with IDD and emphasis on home and community-based services means understanding the needs of family caregivers is crucial. National Resources on Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities. American Association on Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities, AAIDD. This agency seeks to enhance the capacity of disability professionals and seek to participate in the development of a fully inclusive society. They work to enhance the capacity of professionals who work with individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. They cultivate and provide leadership in the field of intellectual and developmental disabilities that encompasses a diverse of disciplines, cultures, and perspectives. The ARC, for people with intellectual disabilities. The ARC promotes and protects the human rights of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and actively supports their full inclusion and participation in the community throughout their lifetimes. The ARC believes that all people with intellectual and developmental disabilities are defined by their own strengths, abilities, and inherent value, not by their disabilities. The ARC believes that people with intellectual and developmental disabilities are entitled to the respect, dignity, equality, safety, and security according to other members of society, and are equal before the law. Association of Professional Developmental Disabilities Administrators. The APDDA supports the continuous improvement of a comprehensive array of individuals and accessible services designed to enhance the quality of life for the person with intellectual disabilities and other developmental disabilities. The primary purpose of the association is to address the needs of the people with intellectual disabilities and other developmental disabilities. The association supports the continuous improvement of a comprehensive array of individuals and accessible services designed to enhance the quality of life for the person with intellectual disabilities and other disabilities. These are our resources that we used for this discussion. Thank you.